Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. I'm tuning in from Vermont today. Next week, I'm going to be in Asheville, North Carolina, and the week after that, I'm going to be in Jamaica. So I'm enjoying the cold and miserable weather here while I've still got it. Drop a note if you haven't already about where you're signing in from. Today's topic is a interesting and somewhat difficult topic. It's on food and our relationship with food. It's a very emotional topic, and it's a place where there's a lot of dogma. And anywhere where people really have dogma, it's really easy to step on toes and offend people. So I'm going to do my best to tread lightly through this topic and do my best to not offend anybody, because I really respect, wherever you're at with food. It's something that we all have to figure out. And it's not an easy subject around being human, and yet it's so essential, right? I mean, if the shit hits the fan, it really all comes down to food and food systems, and ultimately, it's just one of the most fundamental things, obviously, other than air. Food is the topic that put me on my healing path, if you will. If I hadn't struggled with food, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now talking to you. And a lot of you already know my story with food. I don't want to go too deep into it. But, basically, the way that I grew up, the culture that I grew up in, really corrupted my ability to intuitively eat. And, humans forever, like, just kind of intuitively eat what was in their environment. When we're really tuned in as humans, we can sense, without even having to take a bite of the poison mushroom, that it is not good juju, just like any animal can. Our natural human instincts guide us towards that which best serves us. And in a world of advertising and unrealistic images of the human body for most of us, and also just all of the preservatives and chemicals and flavorings, and apparently they figured out some kind of, and my husband calls it want me chemicals, that they put in things like Oreos and Doritos that make you just keep going back and eating more. Certainly Oreos have been a weak spot of mine in the past. I really house a whole bunch of those. So I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about the path that I found that works for me. And kind of along the lines of not saying that I think you should eat like I eat. I'm not giving you dietary advice. A lot of people are really surprised by how I eat. But how I eat is what I figured out works best for me. And I want to give you permission, if you're living inside of any kind of dogma, if you're living inside of any kind of false stories or rules or this or that, to strive towards idealism, and which is what I always do. And I think with food, people tend to really go into this either or scenario, like I'm either good and I'm eating clean, or I'm bad and I'm eating bad. And if I start eating bad, I might as well just keep eating bad. And then Monday I'll start eating good. And there's very often this kind of flip-flopping thing that goes on that's just takes a lot of energy, and, takes away from other things you can be doing. When you get to a peaceable place with food, it's not a fuss in any way, shape, or form. And maybe some of you are already there, and that's great. And hopefully that can share something that you'll appreciate in this tuning. Part of this topic was inspired by a tune-up that I gave to a fellow not that long ago. And I was just kind of listening into his gut and how rigid it was. And so I said to him, "Tell me about your relationship with food." And he said, "I just force myself to eat healthy." He had this sort of draconian rule that he could only eat what he thought was healthy and clean. And I said, "Are you getting any pleasure out of food?" And he was like, "No, I'm just forcing myself to eat what's healthy." And I was like, "Dude, you're just doing it all wrong. Like, you're missing out." on really one of life's greatest pleasures. And, how can we have food be pleasurable without going into gluttony, right? I was speaking with a friend of mine who's very, very smart, and he was in the gym yesterday. We are talking about pleasure and hedonism, and how that's like can be a slippery slope away from um, being really in your integrity. And I said, yes, but what it's really about mastering the pain pleasure threshold, right? Because gluttony is going into pain, but eating food with pleasure is a completely different experience. And so for me as a bothist, right, I want to have all the good stuff that's good for me, but I also want to enjoy the stuff that maybe is fun food that isn't necessarily, have nutrition to it, but is pleasurable to eat. And can I do both? And can I master that, right? Because it's really about knowing how much of any pleasurable substance, which is a poison anything's a poison in large amounts, right? They're finding that people are going whole hog on kale and like ending up with kidney stones. So that's like everything in the right dosage is medicine, but in the wrong dosage can be poison. So it's really about getting in touch with your own self. Like I've given this example before, but it's a good one. Like I love coffee. I just love, I started a coffee shop when I was 20. I came up with the idea when I was 18 after backpacking through Europe and spending a lot of time in cafes, drinking cappuccinos and eating baked goods and being exquisitely happy as I sat there in my journal. And when I came back to the States, my parents had bought a building next door to put their mail order business in. And I was like, what if we put a cafe in here too? And 34 years later, the Vanilla Bean Cafe is still there. And we were the first place in all of northeastern Connecticut to serve espresso drinks. So I love coffee. But I know that one coffee is pleasure. And I put butter and coconut oil and hemp oil in my coffee, and whole cow milk that comes in a glass bottle because I'm here in Vermont. So one is pleasure, but two is pain. As much as I love that cup of coffee, if I have two, it's pain. It's like I get jacked and I'm just right. So it's knowing where that edge is, right? And that I can successfully metabolize this amount. And the same goes for alcohol. Like I fall in the category of like the 3 to 4 drinks a week drinker. A couple nights ago, I had 2 beers, one of the best beers in the world. This beer called Edward. It's made in small batches here in Vermont. And that was perfect. Like I metabolized it, didn't notice it the next morning. Oftentimes I'll have a cocktail when I go out, sometimes 2. And every once in a great while, I can metabolize 3 cocktails and have a good time and not feel anything the next morning. So it's a delicate dance to really understand like what you can tolerate, what you can't tolerate. But when we go all or nothing, then we tend to binge, right? So it's just like that either or scenario hardly really ever works. That there's a middle point, that there's a balance point that we want to get to. And then the other thing that's sort of coming to mind is changing our diets, right? Like my husband, he's kind of like a combination between like the Marlboro Man, James Bond, and a Rastafarian. He used to be, 3 mochas a day, 3 Guinness a day, a pint of Ben and Jerry's every night, meat at every meal, or it wasn't complete. And now he eats mostly vegan. And he doesn't have alcohol and he doesn't really have coffee because he had a health event that he got electrocuted in it. And it put him in a position where he had to change, right? And he feels much better eating that way. But then conversely, another friend of mine who hasn't eaten meat in a really long time, found herself like with her face in a bowl of steak tartare recently. And she's like, it was so good. And I just couldn't stop eating it. Right. So to go from like not eating meat to like shoving your face in a bowl of raw meat. But she was following her body, right? And she was listening to her body. So sometimes our bodies might want and need us to give up certain foods. And that might be really good for us for a while, but then that might change. And it's going to change what we need depending on where we are, what time of year it is, what's going on in our system. Whenever I start to go a little out of balance or get some kind of infection or something, I give up coffee and chocolate and sugar and any kind of stimulant. I keep my diet really plain and simple until I get better, until I know I can metabolize those toxins again happily. So it's really a moment to moment thing that depends on so many factors. And because of that, we don't really want to look to authorities to tell us how to eat because nobody's going to know what your particular circumstance is or what you have available, right? I met some people at the Weston A. Price conference that said that we were talking about food and what you eat, and they said we're flexivores. And I was like, oh God, I love that topic. It's such a bothist kind of description, right? And we're like, we'll eat whatever we have to eat, and we'll do our best wherever we go. And if they're serving meat, we'll eat it, and if they're serving vegetables, we'll eat those. And gosh, right? That's real freedom. That's real freedom because the more restrictions that we have on our diet, like the harder it is to go out with friends or go over to people's houses, right? So I think ideally we want to get to a place where we don't have those restrictions, where we feel more free. And a way to do that is just to strengthen your digestive fire, right? We know that tuning does that, that minding our boundaries, not giving away our power. I wait to eat till I'm really hungry, right? And I've really come to look at food kind of like my digestive system kind of as like an incinerator or like a wood stove, right? And what I'm putting into it is wood to burn, to make heat, to make light. We're putting in embodied sunlight to strip away those electrons and distribute that sunlight to our bodies. And so that's what's going on. And if, things like salads are like little sticks, trying to throw salad in a stomach in the winter, you're just going to get cold and hungry. Here in Vermont, I eat a lot of like egg, bacon, and cheese on bagels. That's something that's like good, thick wood, that's going to burn for a long time. I get 6-7 hours out of a meal like that. And I don't really like to cook or spend time cooking. I want to like eat, get it over with, and go as long as I possibly can till I eat again. Yesterday what did I have for breakfast? I had a ham and cheese croissant for breakfast. And then for dinner, I had a cheeseburger and fries. And that's all I ate all day. And my meals are very often like that. I don't eat a lot of vegetables. And people, I say this and people are like, right? But we've been so programmed. Right? Where do you get the idea that vegetables are good for you? Well, because people have told you that. People are always telling you what's good for you, what's bad for you, this is good for you. And so much of it just ends up being false. Like you're the only one who can figure out what's good for you. Eat it. How did you feel? Did you feel good? All right, that's something you can eat, And eat it and you feel bad, no, note to self, probably shouldn't eat that sort of thing in that way at that time. And, so I had the same breakfast on the road yesterday. I love vegetables, and I love it that some people love vegetables, right? I'm not saying vegetables are bad. I am absolutely not saying that, and I don't want you to be the takeaway. Vegetables are bad for Eileen, and they're not all the time. Like this time of year, I start craving like bitter greens, like arugula. I'll eat some arugula. I'll eat some shoots. But I'm not. I spent years trying to like dutifully choke down vegetables because people told me they were good for me. And one day I was like, you know what? I'm an adult. I'm just gonna not eat these and see what happens. And I've been okay. I mean, you think about it, the Eskimos aren't eating vegetables, right? I mean, humans can survive without this idea like you have to eat all your vegetables. But if you love them and you thrive on them and you grow them, I mean, I happily eat veggies right out of a garden, I'll even eat a tomato out of the garden. I don't eat a tomato any other way. So as I said before, I don't want you to think, that what I'm saying is the advice that I'm giving about what I eat. Because we've all got to figure that out ourselves. But if you've been dutifully choking down vegetables and not digging them, then I would just invite you to like exercise your adulthood and see what happens when you skip the kale and quinoa and have mashed potatoes, butter. Just eat what you want with pleasure. And here's the other thing that I think is so important about food is that if you feel guilty about anything that's going in your mouth, like anything, if you feel guilty about it, don't eat it. Don't eat it. Don't eat with guilt. If you're eating to emotionally because you're upset, that's just your body's not gonna digest it. It's gonna like tuck it away somewhere because it didn't need it. Didn't need it. It was like, oh, well, we better save this fuel for later because we don't need it right now. We didn't send a signal that we were hungry. The digestive fire isn't hot and waiting for food. It's just going to be damp and stagnant and like muck over whatever it is you're trying to sedate. Right. So there's some simple rules like that. I'll just give some other just kind of guideposts that I think are useful. And that is whenever you can eat wild food, like go forage for mushrooms, go forage for fiddleheads, whatever kind of wild food is available. When it's berry season, I go out and I just nam wild berries. Like whenever berries come in season, I'm just like, I just can't get enough of them. I completely pig out on berries in season. So wild food. The next step is what I call a small farm diet. What did your recent ancestors eat? Never mind your paleo ancestors. Like, what were the ancestors in your bloodline eating before big ag came into the picture? How did your recent ancestors eat? And a lot of our recent ancestors ate a small farm diet. It's one of the reasons why I live in Vermont is because there's so many small farms here. I can get small farm milk, cheese, bread, eggs, beef. Right? I do so well on the beef that that one of my body workers has a farm. She has beautiful, beautiful cows, and she loves them, and she takes such good care of their home and their barn, and they figured out the absolutely most humane way to slaughter them. And these cows have a really good life, and they're happy, and so that and it's not far from where I live. So local food, right? Especially local food in season is really good. After that, a whole food, just eat foods that are whole, Anything that comes in a box with a whole lot of ingredients and a whole lot of chemicals, probably not so good. I woke up a few weeks ago and my face is all puffy and I was like, what the heck did I eat yesterday? And I realized that I was really hungry. I was here at the office and there was a jar of Planters peanuts with some kind of seasoning on them, just loaded up with some kind of chemical mixture, God knows what. And just not, that stuff's not good for you, any kind of corporate food. And I don't think we should be supporting corporations to the best of our ability because they're not good characters for the most part, right? Okay. And that said, I love things like pastries and cinnamon buns and chocolate and cake and, all that stuff. But I only eat it sparingly here and there in small amounts, when I really feel like I can metabolize it well. Nothing's off limits. It's just a matter of really being connected to your tongue and your body. Let's see. Especially words that are hard to pronounce. Yeah, you shouldn't eat anything when you're looking at it and you're like, what is that? I can guarantee you that your liver and your kidneys and your digestive tract is gonna be like, what the heck do I do with this? I've got nothing in my coding that tells me what to do with this. It's just poison. It's really just poison. I'd love to know where meat comes from. Corporate food is not food. It's really not food. And even, commercial food and commercially produced food, big ag, like it looks like food, it looks like food, it looks like a vegetable, but it's got no flavor, it's got no smell. And any kind of food that's grown in commercial agriculture, the soil is really depleted of micro minerals, trace minerals. And we really need minerals. Our electrical system absolutely needs minerals. So if we're eating corporate food, the amount of trace minerals in our system really goes down and our ability to conduct electricity goes down. And so the more minerals that are in the soil, the better the food tastes. And the more it's going to support the part of you that's really alive. It's going to give you both electric aliveness in the food and the minerals that you need to support that electrical aliveness. If we listen to our bodies, they'll tell us what we need each day. Yeah. Knowing my limits on coffee and alcohol are what I'm learning. Yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to learn, don't get me wrong, I'm 54, like, I was like this all over the place and a mess, for decades, it's like learning to surf, and it took me 30 years to finally be able to be like smooth in that, just like, yeah, I can have that. Oh, time to stop here. Oh, I can have that. No, I can't. You know what I mean? Just figuring it out. I was going to write a book on how it took me 30 years to learn to master moderation, but I'll teach you how to do it in 10 because it's not easy. And that's why so many people don't try to master the moderate path. They keep themselves in rules and extremes. And that's just a real waste of time and energy. You're better off taking the time to really master your own journey with food. And really, I just invite you to take everything that you've been told by everybody, and just throw it out the window and become a scientist with your own body and start really paying attention to that, and keeping in mind those guideposts that I gave. But it's all about balance. Everything is really about balance, guys, right? This is why we do Biofield tuning, to just help to bring us to a place of balance. And that's where the body can take care of itself. It can't take care of itself if you're off in extremes, you're trying to follow some rule or some diet or some dogma. And your body's like, I'm not digging this. And you're like, we're going to do this anyway. Your body's like, but I'm really not digging it. And you're like, your head's like, we're doing it anyway. And you're like, what the heck are you doing to yourself? Right? Hurting yourself, wasting time and energy, spending energy in dogma when you could be just in flow. And I like organic when I can afford it. Yeah, it shouldn't be so expensive. Doesn't it seem weird that the stuff that they have to put all these chemicals into costs less than the stuff they don't put chemicals into? And I understand that often crop yields are less and that sort of thing. But yeah, I bought some organic celery last time I shopped. It was a different brand than usual. It was so delicious, right? Celery is definitely one of those things. Like when it comes from a small farm, and it's fresh, it can be really tasty. But a lot of times it's just like, why the heck am I even eating this? Because I think it's good for me? I'll pass. That's how I feel. Good. 62 and can still go off the deep end sometimes. That's okay. All you do is, and you don't want to beat yourself up for it. You just want to be like, note to self, what happened? What happened in that moment that led me to go off the deep end? How was I not in my body? What problem was I trying to solve? What emotion was I trying to numb out? What boundary violation that I got that I didn't stand up for was I trying to soothe myself with? That's a big one. I know that I used sugar forever to suppress anger because my anger was powerless in the home that I grew up in. It wasn't accepted and it got me nowhere. So it's like I learned to interpret boundary violations and the natural emotion of anger as a sugar craving. So I could just soothe myself of my discomfort. And that took a long time to get over, and it took a long time to understand what a healthy boundary was and how to enforce it. Even for myself. I often found like when I would force myself to work too hard or too long, then I'd come back and I would just eat badly, and because it's just a whole mess, right? So we're all at different points on that path with food. But I guess what I'm here to talk about today is just to really inspire you towards intuitive eating, towards trusting yourself, towards figuring it out, and really not beating yourself up or giving yourself a hard time or punishing yourself when you go learn something the hard way. You're like, oh, probably shouldn't have done that. Try to do that, not do that next time. Just try to not do that next time. And then you get there. Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, so the tuning that I want to do, it's just about getting ourselves into our bodies, just about really connecting the tongue and the stomach and the brain and the body so that we can maybe move along this path a little easier, right? And maybe feel more naturally attracted to what it is we know we need. Sometimes when I'm in the grocery store, I just kind of scan my hands over things and I kind of feel into what feels sticky, right? What am I attracted to? Ooh, that. Or I'll just trust my no, yes. Just that's what I want. Looking at a menu, no, yes. And just trust that. Just really trust that first impression. When I'm doing it with the intention of what's going to nourish me, what's going to sit well right now, right? And what am I going to enjoy? So all of those things. All right, so let's pull out a fork. Pulling out the 144. So for those of you who have forks, what about metabolism and aging? Well, that's part of always paying attention, isn't it? I mean, it's sort of, if your metabolism changes, then you got to change the way you eat. If your metabolism changes and you don't adapt, then it's not going to work anymore. I think we can keep our metabolism moving if we just dedicate time to exercising our body every day, in some way or another, whether it's through, just the fact that you're using your body. I mean, my husband doesn't go to the gym, but he uses his body every day. If you're sitting at a desk, you really have to take the time to move your body around. You don't use it, you're going to lose it. And, I go to the gym probably 6 days a week, first thing in the morning. I didn't forever. I didn't have time. I didn't have energy. I thought going to the gym was dumb, blah, blah, blah. But then I reached a point in my life where I wasn't moving around as much. I had the time and energy. And I'm so glad that I've made that investment for myself, because it's an investment that pays off all day long. And it doesn't require any discipline any more than like bringing your dog to the dog park, requires discipline on the part of your dog. It's just going to play with sticks and balls and ropes and other dogs. And that's what I do at the gym. So it's just exercising my human body, my human animal. You bring your dog to the dog park. I am one with my metabolism, intentional eating. Are there any benefits to tuning vegetables food prior to consuming? Well, some people do. I wouldn't want to like whip out a fork at every restaurant for doing my food. That would be weird. But I think that's an important question, because it brings me to prayer and the importance of prayer over food. I will, whenever I get a meal, especially when I'm on the road and I'm eating hotel banquet food or airport food, or, something that I'm not super jivey about, but I don't really have any choice because I'm a flexivore. Those kinds of meals, I will really sit for a moment and bless the food. I will give thanks to everyone who grew it, to everyone who transported it, to everyone who prepared it, to everyone involved in putting that meal on my plate. I'll say thank you. I'll send blessings to them and their families and the water that's in it. And I will really love it and bring myself into grateful alignment with it. Right. So I think that that's a really important moment to just take. I think it's also really important when you put food in your mouth, it spends time on your tongue. That you actually chew it so that your stomach can be like, oh, that's what's going on up there. Okay, let me get ready. Let me produce the right things to to digest that. So taking that time to bless whatever it is that you're eating. And then you're not going to feel guilty about it. You're not going to feel sketched about it. You're not just blindly wolfing something down because you're using it to numb some kind of pain, right? You're really communing with it. And those kinds of blessings go out in the world and bring that food into your body in harmony. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's come into our tuning. Let's see what wants to happen. Today, I'm not really sure. I don't have a plan for it. It probably has a plan for itself. And let's just start by closing our eyes and just kind of doing a quick scan. How are you feeling in this moment? What are you noticing about your body? Bring your awareness to your feet, and feet on the floor, or if you got your feet up, just feel your feet. Feel how like tuning into your feet makes your breath just want to go deeper. And then start to bring your awareness just up to your sits bones. Your butt is on the chair, and your butt and your feet. And then bringing that awareness up the spine, into the face and head, jaw. And relax the jaw. Relax around your eyes. And breathe illuminated plasma and ether, oxygen into your sinuses. Feel that light and energy come in. And take a few big breaths like that, really filling the sinuses. And then a nice big breath into the belly and exhale down to the ground. Good. Okay, so just being aware of your inner space, right? Connecting with your whole body. And you want to just get out of your head and out of your thinking and into just curiosity about how the sound is coming in. So it's probably going to resonate in the beginning, the sort of distortions we have around food, false stories, the rigid dogmas, the false beliefs, the old bad patterns, whatever is there, it's going to probably resonate with those things, I think. Well, let's just see what happens. Okay, so what I really heard, especially in that second strike, was fear. It was kind of an interesting thing. It made me think of a few things. Fear that food's going to make you fat, and it also made me think of the client who was like eating healthy food dogmatically. Like there was a fear. It was fear driven, just kind of interesting. And so how is your fear of food affecting you? Think of what is it? Is there anything about food that you're afraid of? Afraid it's going to make you fat, or you can afraid it's going to make you healthy, or are you afraid it's going to rot your teeth? Like, well, what if it's about food that's scary? You're afraid that it's full of toxins or GMOs. Right? So that really, and I feel like a tightness come up in the throat around that. Yeah, afraid it won't taste good. Right? So there we have all this kind of whole layer of fear around food. Are we afraid we're going to run out? My mom grew up in Belfast during World War II, and during the war and after the war, they didn't have enough food. People in the Depression didn't have enough food. Right? So there's all kinds of fear around food. It's hard for food to be your friend when you're afraid of it. Yeah. Others' oppressive ideas about food can really influence us. Afraid of how our parents died and what they ate. Yeah. Right. Wow. It's really scary. Afraid it's been poisoned or GMO'd. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, let's just come back and listen some more. Right? This is really going into this throat, like, kind of feeling. I think when I was bulimic, I was like so afraid of foods, the throat, just a whole lot of nonsense going on there. Yeah, really feels like it's going to the throat in me. I see it is in others, but just kind of let it go in. Where are you feeling it in your body? Just don't try to do anything other than just observe what's happening. So when a pattern starts to shift or to break up, right? That's when my body starts being like a washing machine. So we go in and we resonate the fear, and then the sound comes in, and it's like, yeah, let's expand through that. Let's love food. Let's love our bodies. Let's love the fact that we have bodies and that we can enjoy food. Right? Let's love the fact that we're adults and we can feed ourselves anything we want, and that, and we can take care of ourselves in the process. There's a whole pleasure path here. just wanting to open to you so that you can have a free, healthy relationship with food where there isn't fear or judgment or nonsense or noise, right? Just like, wow, I love this. I'm also feeling like this tension in the shoulders right here that somehow like the whole fear thing goes into the shoulders. It's kind of a contraction there. Just around, not being hearty. It feels like being, when you're hearty and you have a hearty appetite and you eat a hearty meal. There's no fear or nonsense involved there. It's just like, And so when this is going on, it's sort of stealing that energy away from that like gusto, gratitude, and robustness. This is going into like just not enough digestive fire. This is going in and wet, coming out. Bleh. This is just when the fire isn't hot, guys. If you're following me, you understand like electric health. The fire has got to be hot, and so this is thin and watery and damp and weak. And what this is making me think of is that I have a class coming up, and I don't think I have a link for it yet. But starting, I think it's May 16th, I'm doing a 5-week live class, 2 hours a week it's called Get Electrically Healthy with Eileen. And the whole point of that is just going to be, like build your digestive fire, strengthen your central channel, really get you comfortable and confident in the practices that improve and boost your electric health, raise your voltage, clarify your signal, and really liberate you. We're so trapped in our bodies and dysfunction around our bodies. And when we get to the place where like, dig my body and dig food, and then all of that energy that was like and fear and stuck and wet and is going to be like, in a good way, right? And sure, you have things you want to do and change and be, but you got to have sufficient voltage to do it. And not this kind of noise in the signal. Lots of burping and farting. Wowza. Love it. Butter is bad. Concerns are warranted. Joe, no, you just laid down somebody else's rule because the Weston Price Foundation is like, butter is good and we love butter. And there are some people that love butter, that thrive on butter. And it's not fair or right to say that butter is bad. I mean, for some people, it is bad. Not for everybody. Not for everybody, right? These are the rules we want to throw out the window. Butter is bad. Maybe it is for you, but maybe it's not for me. I love butter. Love butter. Doesn't have any ill effect on me at all. I love butter, right? And I think this is part of it. If we're eating something because we're afraid of it because we think it's bad, your body's gonna be like, "What's going on? This thing you're putting in me, I don't know if it's any good or not." Right? But if you're like, butter, love it, doesn't hurt me, right? This is the dogma that we really want to notice when we're stuck. Is it true? Who's it true for? Is it true today? Is it true tomorrow? What's true today might not be true tomorrow. So we've gotta be sensitive to that, right? And not have these, this is not that. It all gets so rigid and not fun. Okay, let's keep going. I'm gonna switch forks. We might come back to that one. Okay, this is the 174. And this one is some kind of like what feels like hysteria coming up or upset coming up. And that it being a feeling that we know we can settle down with food, right? So this certainly, anybody who's a food addict, and I've certainly been there, there's upset But if I like put myself into a carb coma, then I'm not going to feel that upset, right? So what that is that's an inability and unwillingness, or just a lack of awareness that when those feelings are coming up, they need to come out. Otherwise, they're just going to get stuck in you. Emotions are waves, feelings are waves, and they come up and then they move through. And I think if there's anybody here who was in the ancestral healing class that we just did with the shift, there's a lot of stuff coming up and old, stuff that was kind of just tucked into the corners and the nooks and crannies of what we've inherited. And the understanding that you just have to be willing to like let these things come up and out and sit with them. And yeah, it can be terrifying. Yeah, it can be super uncomfortable. But you know what? At the end of the day, suppressing it is actually more uncomfortable. It really is. It really is. So if you've been using food to like settle things down, the only way you're going to heal this imbalance is by stopping the food and giving the upset permission to come up and out and through. It won't last forever. It'll be really uncomfortable, but it'll pass, right? Right. So that's like kind of grounding that like into the body, like, yeah, I can handle it. I got this. You can handle it. So it's just kind of moving out a bunch of stuff that's in the way, various garden variety dysfunctions kind of coming up and out. Okay, so what's going to happen in these next few strikes is just this sort of tuning in at the mind, the head, the tongue, the stomach, the body, the cells. Like, let's get everybody on the same page. We really want to have a sense of inner unification in this experience where everything is in alignment, where your mind knows what your body wants and needs, and your mind know when you're full and when to stop eating. Right? Just this whole body integration. Yeah. Excuse me, I got the burps going on too. Luckily, I'm not farting as well. Right, so that feels good. Like, this feels sort of solid and like, like there's a core kind of radiance of connection going on. Receiving the cues from within ourselves, nurturing us. Yeah, tuning into what, believing you're worthy of being nurtured and nourished. Good. Okay, let's just do a few more with the 528. And then we'll call ourselves done for today. Let's see what this one wants to do. It's easy for me to love and nourish myself with food. It's easy for me to have a healthy, good relationship with food and my body. I naturally choose foods that are good for me right now. I allow myself to feel pleasure, but I don't overindulge. I love food. I love my relationship with food. It's getting healthier and healthier and better every day. Stomach is a great incinerator. Fiery, powerful. Good. All right. Drop a note. What are you noticing? How do you feel? What kind of thoughts or realizations did you have while we were going through this process? And, how can you go forward enjoying your relationship with food a lot more? Right? Noticing when you're being judgy or rigid or dogmatic or judgmental towards other people, and realize that that's all just creating tension. We want to be relaxed. And you guys, there's plenty of little old ladies, right? I say this a lot. Plenty of little old ladies live to be over 100, like drinking booze, smoking butts, eating whatever they want. And what they're doing is they're managing their stress really well in a balanced way. They laugh a lot. They enjoy, their snifter brandy at the end of the day or whatever. I was also thinking of how there was those lists of people that said, things that the regrets of the dying. And one of them was, I wish I'd eaten more ice cream and less beans. And I was like, yes, me too. I'm never going to sit around and eat beans dutifully. So if you're not digging it and you think it's healthy, your body's like not really digging it either. So relax and enjoy. And, unless you are, I want to qualify this, unless you are in a position where you really feel like you need to be rigid right now, right? And I don't want to take that away either. If you're healing or if you're changing stuff up and right now you need to be rigid, by all means, if that's what you feel you need to do, then do, but relax into the fact that you're being that way. Good. All right, let's just see drop the guilt. I feel great. I feel more peaceful, feeling more calm. Trust my path is my path. I love making my own cookies. Ready to throw some logs on the fire. I'm going to go get a bagel. Good. I didn't think that my past bulimia and anorexia were stopping my progress. I see it all moving. I know where to focus now. Yeah, right? That's good. Being on a restricted diet is no fun. I love beans. I'm so glad you love beans. My nickname was Bean when I was a kid. And well, actually until I was 32. And there was a song from World War II about throwing out the window, go the beans, we're throwing them away. And my older siblings would pick me up and like gesture like they were going to throw me out the window, and they'd go, out the window goes the bean. And I think that is like emotional trauma around beans because I've never been able to digest them very well. So, but if you love beans and you can digest them, then eat them, just eat them up. Yeah. Relaxing into food. I'm about to go to the grocery store, bringing this with me. Good. More relaxed. All right, guys. Well, that's always what we want you to do, is to relax. And go through your day with more ease and awareness, right? And acceptance. Like if you do the wrong thing, forgive yourself. You make a bad choice, you eat too much of something, it's okay. Just note to self for next time. And that's how we figure out the balance with it all. Loving. My nickname was Beans too. Great. Acceptance. Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for being here. I know that those of you who show up with your tuning forks and you add the mix and you, just bringing your own willingness and awareness, we're creating something here that isn't just about us, right? We're really shifting the vibe in us, which starts to radiate it out into the collective. And again, this is something that we really saw with the ancestral healing class, where the work that people were doing was sort of radiating out into their families and the world around them. And more people are noticing that the Biofield tuners are noticing that fields are easier to get through, that a lot of the emotions and feelings like joy and wonder are more up at the surface, seeking to be amplified. So there's a change happening. And we're seeing it more and more. And I know that the news wants to give you fear porn. But in reality, what I'm seeing amongst humans is a tremendous amount of healing and self-liberation going on. That the work that everyone is doing and how they're impacting people around them, we're bringing in a lot more light and a lot more balance. And that's because of the work you're doing. So thank you. Drop a like if you like. If you want to make a donation, I made sure that the donation link works. We're collecting for scholarships for our Jamaican students and also really any students. So when you make a donation, you're helping me to help others to learn to do this work, which I really appreciate. And okay, that's it. Until next week, everybody stay well and enjoy. Okay, bye.